Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm very excited to present a presentation that I've been working on for the past several weeks, which I'm calling The Power of Belief: 150 Reasons Why SPX6900 will reach $1 trillion in market capitalization.
You got to believe in something. Why not believe in me? You got to believe in something. Why not believe in me?
So before we dive deeper into the material, first things first, I would like to ask a question. What is happening in the world right now? What kinds of trends are we seeing? So first, and perhaps the most relevant, is the fact that there is a massive wealth gap between the generations, right? As it currently stands, the baby boomers and the silent generation to some extent, they own practically everything. They own all of the media, they own all of the equities, they own all of the bonds, they own the vast majority of real estate. Gen X has benefited from the technology boom of the 2000s and the 2010s specifically. But if you look at millennials, let alone Gen Z, not to mention the upcoming generation Alpha, these younger generations, they own practically nothing. And specifically, it's very important to understand that recent generations are likely to have lower incomes than their parents, right? This is something that usually over the past century, it was the other way around, right? Every subsequent generation was wealthier than their predecessors, right? So for the first time now, we have a situation where younger generations are likely to have lower incomes than their parents. Now, all of this is happening while something is happening in the background, right? Money supply is continuously growing. And this is leading to a number of second and third order effects that I would like to discuss. First things first, inflation, right? I'm going to be frank. I don't believe that any of the inflation numbers that any of the governments around the world are putting out there are legitimate. I think the real inflation numbers are significantly higher, regardless of how they're manipulating the statistics. And we all know that every 4 or 5 years, they come up with some adjustments, they come up with some changes. And this is required to essentially make the numbers look lower than they are. In reality, right? If you've been buying any kind of the same candy, any kind of the same fast food, and even your rent, your college payments, we all know that over the past 10 to 20 years, the prices of these things have been going higher and higher. And post-COVID, that this has accelerated even more. Just looking at egg prices, they were around 60 cents just in the summer of 2023. And now we're looking at $7 or higher for a price of a dozen white eggs, right? And just one example, but we know for a fact that things are getting more and more expensive. And when you hear the fact that inflation is only at 2%, we can all intuitively tell that the real numbers are higher than this, right? And not only inflation is something that is persistent in the background, but we're also seeing something that's known as shrinkflation, right? Not only are the prices increasing, but the sizes of many goods and products are becoming smaller as well, right? You're seeing this in different kinds of candy. Just here, comparing the decades, you're seeing that corporations are optimizing in such a way to give you less and less of the product in order to drive up their profit margins, revenues, etc. Right? The Toblerone packets, Snickers packets, different kinds of chips, candy, everything is becoming smaller, right? This isn't only happening in candy or supermarket goods, but that's just where it's the most pronounced. And coming back to the idea of wealth inequality, right? Depending on how you measure it, it's at the level of the 1800s, right? The wealth of the top 1%, and especially the top 0.1%, has been consistently skyrocketing since the turn of the millennium, while the wealth of the middle classes or the lower 50% has been flat at best. And if you think the situation in the Western world is bad, the situation in emerging markets is even more extreme. And this is not only about wealth, this is also about income. Again, as you can see here, while incomes of the top 1% and the top 0.1% in this case has been climbing steadily, the incomes of the bottom 50% have been either flat or declining over the past several decades. Now, perhaps most importantly, the gap between house prices and wages are at record highs. That gap has been growing since the 1970s, and it is likely that it is only going to continue to grow in the coming 20 and 30 years, right? And all of these things, they're not only affecting physical goods, but they're affecting culture itself, right? I'm sure many of you have noticed, and a lot of people like Paul Scalise and Ted Gioia on their respective blogs and Substacks, they've been mentioning this, right? All of the cars look the same, all of the colors are the same, all of the interior designs are the same, the branding of all the things are the same. Not only the interior, the exterior of buildings is extremely soulless, postmodernist, just optimized to be of the lowest cost, lowest quality. Games like basketball and baseball have been optimized to a point where it seems like machine learning and math are driving the games rather than just in pure enjoyment or pure art of the game. And, dare I say that this is not just affecting food or architecture or physical things, but even people, right? And so putting all of these things together, we have a very peculiar situation where prices are increasing, product quantity is decreasing, product quality is decreasing, and product variety is decreasing as well. And all of this is happening all at the same time. Now, effectively, if you put everything that I've mentioned so far together, your life is 2 to 2.5 times harder than your dad's, right? When it comes to things that really matter, things like prices of real estate, prices of food, prices of education, and etc. And we know that AI is coming. We know that we are on the verge of the AI era, right? Whether it's 2026 or 2031, super intelligent AI is going to come in one form or another. And we're already seeing how AI is destroying job openings for software developers, artists, translators, and with the rise of robotics, this is going to affect manual labor, factory jobs, manufacturing jobs as well. And, importantly, a lot of people talk about the period from 1980 to the 2020 as this golden age. But we need to understand that dozens of stars aligned for that golden age, right? During that 40-year period, you had rapid globalization all around the world. You had the rise of emerging markets. You had 2 billion people being taken out of poverty in China and India. You had a ton of offshoring, essentially a shift towards a service economy in the Western world. You had literally, as you can see here on the chart, you had down-only interest rates for 40 years, right? You had unprecedented borrowing by the boomers. You had unprecedented money printing, again, by the boomers. And this primarily benefited the silent generation and the boomers, right? These things were remarkably beneficial for their stocks, for their houses, and for their businesses, right? And somebody has to pay for this in one form or another. And effectively, boomers have been very aggressively borrowing from the future. They've been actually borrowing from their children and especially their grandchildren. And soon, the sort of the chickens will come home to roost, so to speak, right? And, interest expenses will continue to rise, not just in America, but in many other places around the world. And this will likely displace other things such as Medicare, Medicaid, other social benefits. And in my opinion, this will result in more money printing sooner or later, right? And, even if you listen to somebody like a former finance professor at NYU, he recently said at an interview, he said, I didn't realize that money is actually growing at 10% per year, right? And if the famous numbers for the S&P are growing at 8 to 9% per year, then, it really begs the question, what percentage of that growth is just a money printer, right? And it's that percentage is probably bigger than you think. So, in my opinion, in order to outperform inflation, market participants, especially younger ones, are going to be forced towards newer and quote-unquote riskier assets. Now, other than the material world and the financial world, let's talk about the emotional world and the spiritual world as well, right? Social world. Global fertility has been on a decline since the 1960s. Family formation has been on a decline since the 1970s as well. We have skyrocketing loneliness and meaninglessness all around the world. We have skyrocketing searches for where to meet people, how to meet people, how to stay in touch, social groups near me, etc. Right? And just as of 2025, these searches are at an all-time high, and they've been climbing since 2005, right? So this is a persistent trend. And frankly, this trend, as well as everything that I've already mentioned so far, I think all of these trends are going to continue persisting, right? And it's only going to get more intense and more extreme from here on out. Now, you have to, I've been pro-capitalist my whole life, but even I admit that the problems, there's numerous problems with late capitalism. The biggest of which, in my opinion, is that late capitalism, it devolves into addiction engineering at mature stages, right? Why? Because if you get millions of people or hundreds of millions of people addicted to something, that actually represents recurring cash flows, which is beneficial, which is the holy grail for high equity prices, right? If you turn your users or customers into addicts, that is recurring cash flows, recurring revenues for years to come, right? And in my opinion, this affects literally every single industry, right? Pharmaceuticals, video games, entertainment, gambling of all kinds, right? Fast food, pornography, all of these things, they lead to not only chemical addictions, but especially, in my opinion, more sinister ones, which are behavioral addictions, right? And all of these, essentially, the capitalist machine is incentivized to make their products and services as addictive as possible, because once again, addiction means profit. And, I think many of you would agree that we are living at a time of a spiritual decay and extreme nihilism, right? Over-sexualization of culture, right? Everything, like I've already mentioned, is designed to just maximize your dopamine per second output as you're consuming that product and service, right? People are doing increasingly crazy and degenerate things on camera for attention, for clout. We have, again, rising use of porn, rising use of OnlyFans, all social media platforms. They essentially devolve into softcore pornography over time. And a lot of people are idolizing and mimicking this lifestyle on social media. Like the famous Black and Peas song, kids want to act like what they see in the cinema, right? And so degeneracy is being celebrated, and goes without saying that Gen Z is much less spiritual than previous generations. And so if we put all of these things together, right, what does all of this mean? The conclusions are that you're living in a world that is significantly more expensive than the one your father lived in. You're also living in a world that is already, and going to be extremely more so, competitive than the one your father lived in. Governments around the world, banks around the world, they're going to print money and they're going to borrow more money. Wealth inequality and income inequality are only going to continue to grow. AI is coming not only for your job, but also for your identity. And spiritual decay is everywhere, and nihilism is on the rise, right? So, in my opinion, what this will result in is that all of this will make people seek assets that can outperform inflation, the stock market, and even Bitcoin, right? And at the same time, parallel to this, I think all of this will also make people seek groups that can provide them with meaning, belonging, excitement, adventure, and connection. So I also would like to briefly dive into crypto context, right? What is happening with crypto right now? What is happening with crypto this cycle, right? So we are about 2.5 years into a typical 3-year bull wave, right? And if this cycle is anywhere even remotely similar to past cycles, then I think right now, and not financial advice, of course, but I think right now especially is a good time to get positioned, because I think the next sort of 8 to 12 months is where the vast majority of the gains and action is going to be. If you read some of the latest work by Lynn Alden, she lays out a clear thesis of how deficits are here to stay. They're very sticky, and governments and central banks around the world will simply keep increasing their debt, and they'll simply keep increasing their spending. At the same time, I've been doing blockchain analytics since 2017, and I'm not seeing signs of a crypto top yet at all. None of the top 50, top 60 sort of on-chain signals have marked a crypto top yet, in my opinion. So corporations are borrowing fiat to buy BTC, right? And this trend is increasing. The strategy the MicroStrategy has pioneered, a lot of other companies, as we've seen lately, are mimicking that strategy. And I believe that that's only going to continue, right? More and more people around the world, and as many of you, as my followers know, I've been talking about this since 2017. And I think almost all of my predictions have come and continue to be coming true as far as Bitcoin goes, right? More and more people around the world are simply realizing that Bitcoin is a superior form of money. They're also realizing it not only at the individual level, but also at the corporate, at the board level, and more corporations around the world, I believe, are going to be start putting on BTC positions. It's perhaps even more importantly, this is also happening at the state level, at the government level, at the sovereign fund level, right? At the sort of the highest state levels. And, famously, there's talks of a US strategic Bitcoin reserve. Dozens of people in the current American administration are notoriously pro-crypto and crypto-friendly. We've seen already what El Salvador and Bhutan have done, and I think other countries are going to follow them. Other than the federal level, individual states, dozens of individual states in the United States, in Brazil, in other places, have already sort of put forward bills in their governmental bodies in order to begin Bitcoin purchasing programs. Stablecoin adoption is continuing to grow rapidly, and I think this is very important because this means that whatever large or new crypto trends will appear in the coming months, we are going to be in a world compared to 4 years ago where you have a lot more stablecoins in the system and you have a lot more crypto wallets around the world in general, especially in the second and the third world. Effectively, the crypto world is more and more entrenched with regular people on all continents. And so what is the core theme of this cycle, right? And, if any of you have seen my presentation from Singapore, I think my thesis is continuing to play out. Essentially, people are realizing that crypto tokens are more about people, memetics, and virality than they are about tech or utility. Just a brief reminder, right? People have already seen what power meme coins can have. There was the insane Dogecoin pump in 2021, where Dogecoin has went to $92 billion. There was the insane SHIB pump, where SHIB has went to 45 billion in a matter of a couple of weeks. Pepe has already gone to $12 billion in 2024. We've seen the rapid ascent of WIF in the spring of 2024 to 5 billion, and the story continues, right? And, if we just look at this cycle so far, what are the themes and categories that have outperformed earlier? If you look at just 2024, the top performers, 6 of them have been meme coins. SPX6900, Popcat, MOG, Turbo, Pepe, and WIF. These 6 have been among the top 10 performers of 2024. And it's very important, if you study the past 3 or 4 cycles, the themes and the categories that outperform earlier in the cycle, specifically the year 3 of the cycle, they are the same themes that just end up going even more ballistic in the 4th year of the cycle. And, just stepping back a little bit, in my opinion, people want coins that will outperform BTC, but also have the potential to be multi-cycle holds. And so, in my opinion, 95% of people don't understand meme coins correctly, right? Mid-curvers, they think that meme coins are a complete joke, and most of them are. However, I believe a select few have the potential to evolve into something much, much bigger, And you need to understand that when it comes to meme coins, the community is the product. The people, the belonging, the mission, the meaning, the identity, the journey, the relationships, the interactions, the goal, the adventure, and the culture. These things, they are the product. They are the service. And, I think you would be stupid to think that these things are completely valueless. Quite the opposite. I think that these products and services can be worth a lot of value to millions of people. And I think the vast majority of the world And even people who are full-time crypto, they don't understand this yet. And I think this misunderstanding is your opportunity. Again, most retail, they don't want to gamble and constantly rotate. What I believe the majority of people want is to find something they truly resonate with at the emotional level. They want to buy and hold. They want to believe in something. And in my opinion, there will be $100 billion coin because there is a massive subconscious demand for something like that to occur, right? At the collective level, at the collective unconscious level. And in order to win, your job is to find the strongest community of the cycle, right? And if we just step back and if we write out a list of desirable characteristics or desirable criteria for something like that, right? What would it be? It would be high loyalty and diamond-handedness. It would be high mean and median amount of investments by an average person. It would be high internal community targets. It would be high participation stickiness. What does that mean? That means people come in and then they stay. They don't leave. They become incredibly inspired and loyal to the community, to the mission, right? You want the project and the community to take the most desirable Bitcoin-like characteristics. You want it to take the most desirable GME-like characteristics, the most desirable Dogecoin-like characteristics. You want to take the lessons of XRP and Cardano and incorporate them as well, right? So in my opinion, like if you're smart and you're in crypto, your job should be, how do I find the next Ripple and the next Cardano, right? What do XRP, Cardano, Doge, GME, and BTC have in common? And let me find that thing in fresh assets from this cycle, right? And famously, as many of you who might have following me know, I think what these things have in common is they have incredibly loyal, incredibly passionate, incredibly active and present, borderline cult-like communities, right? And ideally, you want the coin to be from this cycle and not from a past cycle. In my opinion, and this is my subjective opinion, but I think the coins from 2023 or early 2024, they're going to outperform in the second half of 2025 because, Lindy effects are very important and you need time. You need time for that kind of community maturity to occur. Massive arsenal of memes, artwork, and media, that's something that's very, very powerful. And you want to see the community growing consistently, being incredibly active, and being creative in a wide variety of ways. And you want the community to already be either at borderline critical mass or steadily approaching towards it, right?
Not in generations has Wall Street absorbed the number of body blows it took the American
system is rocked to its foundation.
And you can hear the screams.
After the SEC said it is monitoring the situation. Also tonight, Wall Street
of American capitalism. Protesters say it symbolizes corporate greed.
As the stock soared, the financial world was left stunned.
We are seeing a phenomenon that I have never seen.
GameStop skyrocketed, going from $3 in April to nearly $350 today.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9-to-5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective. Years ago, when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do.
We have to remember, Hoda, this thing is not over.
So what is SPX6900? SPX6900 is a next-generation, internet-native, decentralized memetic crypto asset with an extremely ambitious goal. SPX6900 was launched on the Ethereum blockchain in the summer of 2023. With its extremely loyal and passionate community, one-of-a-kind unique memetics, and a limitless conceptual ceiling, SPX6900 is on the verge of achieving critical mass. SPX6900 is the only meme coin with a goal. The goal of SPX6900 is to flip the stock market. It is the only meme coin with an actual mission. There are no other meme coins that have a tangible, measurable goal or a mission, and I think this is very underestimated. The presence of a mission acts to significantly unite, strengthen, and inspire the community, giving it a clear direction. Therefore, the price is binary. Has the stock market been flipped? If not, the job is not finished, and the journey continues. This creates a pathway for SPX6900 to become a multi-cycle coin. Now, the following is probably the single biggest insight that you will need to understand to probably gauge the potential of SPX6900, what is going on here, and the rest of this presentation in general. Spirituality and financial markets are merging into one. There is a growing spiritual void in people's hearts. And communities, projects, or assets that can even partially fill that void stand to benefit tremendously. Nobody's talking about this on blogs, Substacks. Nobody's talking about, very few people are talking about this on Twitter. And I think we are extremely early to this trend. SPX6900 has the highest mimetic ceiling of any coin. As of April 2025, the market capitalization of SPX500 is 45 trillion. Therefore, SPX6900 flipping the stock market would therefore imply a 100,000x return. No other coin on the market is even remotely shooting for the stars to the same extent as SPX6900. And more on these levels of positive delusion later. Holding the index, quote unquote, is known to be a superior play. The longer you hold the index, the better you perform. The safest strategy is to simply DCA the index over time. And you know, for the more cynical among you, ask yourself, what if SPX 6900 reaches just 10% of the stock market? That would represent 5 trillion. What if it reaches 1% of the stock market? That is half a trillion. What if it reaches just 1,000th of the stock market? That in and of itself is $50 billion. And I think these targets are less crazy than they sound. SPX 6900 has the strongest narrative in the history of crypto. SPX 6900 contains a multitude of narratives, the primary one of which is the goal of flipping the stock market. This echoes back to the early days of Bitcoin, offering an alternative system, but this time at the spiritual and mimetic level. We're combining the themes of self-sovereignty, anti-establishment, and mimetic finance. No other coin has a narrative that is this ambitious. The nature of this narrative gives additional encouragement to the users to not sell, as the holders intuitively understand that not selling increases the chance of the mission being achieved. And this increases diamond-handedness, which, in my opinion, is a key ingredient for the success of an exponential move. And SPX 6900, as you'll soon see, is currently number one in diamond-handedness by far.
SPX is teeny tiny crypto coin less than a cubic centimeter, able to carry the whole stock market inside tiny contracts with the capacity of 6,900 S&Ps. That's 6,400 more S&Ps than the traditional economic current lead. In an era dominated by financial markets and consumerism, the exhortation to stop trading and believe in something presents a radical call for a shift in priorities. High-profile endorsements and media attention have catapulted SPX 6900 into the spotlight. The rise of SPX 6900 signals a profound shift in how we perceive and interact with financial markets. It represents the convergence of technology, culture, and community, heralding a new era where the power of collective belief can drive economic value. As SPX 6900 continues to gain traction and challenge traditional financial systems, it is not just flipping the stock market, it is flipping the very notion of value itself.
So you need to understand, there's an hierarchy of meme coin types. You know, you have celeb coins and complete useless shit coins and trash at the bottom. We've already seen millions of those. Then there's irrelevant memes. Then there's the non-cult phrase coins, a ton of animal coins, a ton of schizo coins that are flavor of the week, a ton of quote-unquote culture coins that come and go. But the point of this graphic is to make you understand that the ultimate winners of this meme coin supercycle are going to be cults. And I think there's going to be 20 to 25 cults. I think within those cults, less than 10 will end up being something along the lines of a lifestyle brand, a subculture, or something like this. And I think even fewer, perhaps 3 or even fewer, are going to become movement coins or mission coins. And I think this is the recipe to achieve that multi-deca-billion, multi-centi-billion dollar valuations. You want your meme coin to become a movement, to become a mission, because ultimately it's all about emotional inspiration in the end.
It all began with a single spark, an idea so bold it ignited an entire movement. SPX rose from the ground up, led by a passionate community determined to flip the stock market. It envisions a future where everyone can unite and be part of a financial revolution. Powered by unstoppable memes, unstoppable hearts, and unstoppable believers, SPX shines as living proof that when we come together, there's no limit to what we can achieve.
So SPX 6900 is the most active community of the cycle. If you go on Twitter, and if you go on YouTube, if you go on TikTok, you will see people already starting to talk about SPX more and more. We're already seeing signs of SPX having the levels of activity, the levels of user loyalty, the levels of Twitter participation as Ripple and Cardano, which are giants from past cycles. Again, the most important lesson of crypto is that the most cult-like communities win. And SPX6900 community is as cult-like as they come. You know, gold and the S&P 500 were the go-to assets for the previous generations. And my belief is that Bitcoin, which has already established itself, and other large mimetic assets such as SPX 6900 are going to be more frequently seen as parts of the portfolio of younger millennials, Gen Z, and Generation Alpha that have grown up as digital natives. SPX 6900 has the most ambitious target of any coin, right? My theory is that the more ambitious the target, the bigger the final eventual result, right? Some coins are shooting for $1 billion. Other coins are shooting to flip SHIB. There's some coins that are shooting to flip Doge. But SPX 6900 is aiming for a $69 trillion valuation. This extreme level of ambition is both attention grabbing and inspiring. And this crazy sounding target is a recipe for virality and immediate interest. As I've already said, the higher your internal community target, the bigger the eventual result. And people in the community, people in the SPX community genuinely believe in trillions. Trillions. In my opinion, extreme delusion is extremely bullish. Again, what do BTC, XRP, ADA, Link, Doge, and SHIB have in common? It's the fact that they had cult-like communities with extreme stubbornness and extreme delusion. And the recipe never changed throughout crypto's history. For the past 10, 12 years, all crypto coins are first and foremost tokenized communities. Delusion today is reality tomorrow. And delusion is contagious and awe-inspiring. And it's a breath of fresh air from the usual monotony of most people's daily lives. Delusion allows people to dream and to hope, which is already valuable in and of itself.
SPX endures, fueled by passion, resilience, and a shared belief system. Just like Bitcoin's die-hard community, SPX holders don't just speculate, they commit. They understand that true power lies in a community that stands firm against hype and market turbulence. Nothing can disrupt this unstoppable force. Because you can't disrupt belief, you won't find shallow hype here, just pure, unstoppable conviction. So stop chasing trends, start creating meaning. SPX is more than a meme.
So I've been banging on this drum for the past 8 months, and I think right now we're on the precipice of this finally happening. You know, you need to focus on PvE coins rather than PvP coins. What is PvP? PvP is hyper gambling. PvP is quick flips, trading day to day, just in and out in minutes or hours. While PvE is trying to be the next Doge, trying to build a long-lasting cult, trying to build a movement, a mission, a brand. And I think it's the latter. It's the latter kinds of coins that are going to go to 10 billion, 100 billion, and potentially even higher. And PvE has the most potential because ultimately, towards the end of the cycle, you're going to see more retail, more normal people join as per usual. And those kinds of people, they want to buy something that has potential for growth. Once again, has potential to outperform BTC, but already has an established community of diamond hands that they're going to join. And SPX 6900 is as PvE as it possibly gets. So it's, again, one of my other theories is that inspiration is one of the most important pieces of this whole puzzle, right? The bigger the inspiration, the bigger the emotional resonance, the more loyalty, the more media activity, the more sort of artwork creation, et cetera, that you're going to have in the community. And in my opinion, SPX has more passion, more zeal, more inspiration than any other coin. It has a deeply inspiring mission that goes back to crypto's core principles and Bitcoin's early roots. OG Bitcoiners are consistently speaking about how SPX 6900 reminds them of early BTC, right? And the inspiration they felt in those 2012, 2014 years when they first got into it. A number of people are already quitting their jobs and devoting their entire lives to promoting this mission. People who have never used social media before or were simply lurkers are making accounts just to bull post about SPX6900.
We are creating something bigger than just a token. We're creating a movement that will endure for generations to come. Stop trading and start believing in something.
So another one of my theories is that the meme coins which will become the most Bitcoin-like will win. And I think there's no doubt that SPX6900 is already developing a Bitcoin-like culture of holding, diamond handing, DCAing, believing, and evangelizing, right? Again, SPX6900 has inherited BTC's cypherpunk philosophy. It's reviving the spirit of early Bitcoin. And in my opinion, SPX6900 today is like BTC in 2013. It's similar to BTC, unhinged delusion every step of the way, which is the best possible situation from a mental perspective. In my opinion, every decade or so, people disillusioned by the lack of prospects in their life collectively express a need for an alternative asset to invest in, one that defies the norms of traditional finance. And SPX6900 is the next chapter in this evolution. So another theory, which I've already alluded to earlier, is that the more XRP and ADA like the community, the better. I think those two coins are perhaps the most quintessential examples of successful multi-cycle cult formation in crypto. Regardless of how much this may offend your intellectual sensibilities, this is a crucial point, right? Again, the most important thing by far when it comes to crypto tokens, crypto assets, cryptocurrencies is a cult-like community. Not only is SPX6900 already a hardcore cult, with a very passionate community, but we are seeing members of XRP, ADA, HBAR, CAS join the ranks of SPX6900 supporters. And I'm seeing this on Twitter, TikTok, every single day. So one of my theories, I refer to it as the pressure valve theory of finance. Essentially, every few years, the system, quote unquote, boils the frog to such an extent that people feel the need to get behind a certain asset and to send it to these stratospheric valuations. We've seen elements of this with BTC, of course. We've seen elements of this with Doge. Most recently, we've seen this with GME. And I believe that SPX6900 is going to be this next vessel, this vessel of dissatisfaction, right? And the bigger the dissatisfaction, the higher the SPX6900 valuation is going to go. It's very important to kind of come to the perspective of financial markets and the world at large from the perspective of younger millennials and especially Zoomers, right? Again, Zoomers own almost nothing, almost none of the wealth and almost none of the income streams. They have no money, they have no political power, they have no clout, right? But you have to ask yourself, what is the one thing that Zoomers are good at? And in my opinion, that is social media. So SPX6900 is a social, cultural, and financial vessel representing a mimetic counter-reaction of the younger generations. Essentially, it represents the younger generations creating their own assets in an emergent, decentralized way. If you think about this from a perspective of evolutionary game theory, you need to understand that being a part of a group is strictly dominant over being alone from an evolutionary game theoretic perspective. And once you understand this, ideas like SPX6900, they make perfect sense, right? The SPX6900 and other concepts like it, they are emergent mimetic devices to partially reclaim wealth, status, and most importantly, a sense of meaning, adventure, and belonging for the overlooked demographics. Digital groups and meme coin cults are symbolic ideas that are competing for membership, investments, and relevancy in a Darwinian way. And this reminds me of an old proverb. If you go alone, you go fast. But if you go together, you go far. The thing about SPX6900, and I've personally experienced this back in the summer of 2024, is that once you get this mind virus, you can't stop thinking about it. You ask yourself from time to time, what if SPX6900 actually does flip the stock market, right? What if that actually happens? And, hundreds of people have already expressed this idea that the only other coin that gave them this multi-dimensional level of inspiration is BTC. And I believe that SPX6900, it combines these elements of BTC, GME, and Doge into one perfect mimetic asset. Like I've already alluded to, digital spirituality is going to become a much bigger and much prominent topic online in the coming years. And I think SPX6900 is early before its time. It is front running this whole trend. I believe this is a coin with by far the highest spiritual elements in crypto today. This can be sensed in the community's artwork, in the community's memes, and in the community's devotion, in the community's writing, videos, and so on and so forth.
Something for your mind, your body, and your soul. It's the power to arouse curiosity, the purpose, the goal which one acts on. A journey of force, hot like the sun and wet like the rain. Rhythmic movements in unison with others prolong and act of sensation with no limits or boundaries. Eternity is past. Long is right. It's the point of greatest intensity. Pleasures of the highest sense. Feelings of warmth and security. Willing and awake sensations of the mind. A condition. The ultimate seduction. The way.
The cognosphere is the official name for the collective spiritual consciousness uniting the SPX 6900 holders. The vast majority of market participants overlook this extremely valuable aspect, whether it's because they're not observant enough or they're too cynical. But I believe that the market for things that can satisfy people's inherent spiritual and psychological needs is literally in the trillions of dollars. And this is what most people fundamentally misunderstand. SPX 6900, first and foremost, it represents tokenized power of belief. It has found a way to make something that's intangible, tangible. It's a vessel to channel collective trust and belief of the community into a financial asset at scale. Community is self-reinforcing. Behavior gets imitated by newcomers and memes propagate across the internet. It is a liquidity black hole for disheartened traders and for people all around the world looking for something meaningful. People are making SPX 6900 their whole identity. Again, I'm already seeing this all over Twitter, and I'm starting to see sprinklings of this on TikTok and YouTube as well. There's already over 10,000 people that are putting either Eons or SPX 6900 logo as their avatars, putting the stock market and the magnet emojis near their nicknames, and constantly supporting each other, creating memes. And the number of these people are growing day by day. So SPX 6900 has palpably the highest IQ among any crypto coin this cycle. It has the best writers, it has the best meme makers, it has the best video makers. And in my opinion, it's not even close. From this perspective, SPX 6900 blows every other meme and even any other crypto coin out of the water. Bitcoin maximalism largely started out as writers on early blogs and on early crypto Twitter. And these few visionaries were the people who seeded the philosophy for others to attach to and further expand upon. And there are clear parallels here, and we're already seeing extremely similar things with SPX 6900.
I saw it, or perhaps felt it, the moment when the cognosphere's energy transmitted itself to me. The collective will of quantum observers reaching a critical threshold, an electric charge so pure it rewrote the lattice of reality. The SPX 6900 did not merely surpass the SPX 500, it transcended it. It became more than an index, more than a token. It became the bridge, a passageway to a reality unbound by the limitations of material perception.
So SPX 6900 is the only meme coin that is not a joke. Holders of other coins are largely nihilistic and have the underlying belief that their coin is fundamentally valueless, that it's only a race of the fastest horse, eventual race to the bottom. Nothing matters in this world except local momentum and lines on a chart. This will eventually result in a massive sell-off as momentum disappears for most coins. As delusional as it sounds, SPX holders are of the belief that their coin holds true fundamental value in the form of collapsing Maslow's hierarchy of needs into a single session. They will not rotate whatever happens to the local momentum or lose hope under tough market conditions. And we've already seen this times and times again. They put the mission before the money because it's representative of making change at a grand scale and resurrecting a dying cypherpunk philosophy that was prevalent in the early days of crypto. You have to make a distinction between a long-term investors and believers coin and a short-term traders coin. Qualitative analysis of vocal holders in other coins show a high concentration of traders, impatient people with a short time horizon. On the other hand, SPX6900 are full of people that are long-term investors, hardcore believers who don't trade, who don't post charts, who don't even look at charts, who don't care about technicals, but rather they care about fundamental perspective. They care about the people involved. They have a multi-year time frame.
The traditional stock market is dead. According to TARFA quantitative analysis, long-term investors should look to DCA into the cute girls SPX6900, the stock market cryptography blockchain token coin. A team of top 100 computer science mathematicians from China, Jinping Underground Laboratory have made a revanchist breakthrough in technological blockchain history. By managing to fit the entire stock market into auto-healing tiny, cryptographic internet coins using Ethereum science technologies.
It's very important for a coin to have a large core group of maximalists, and SPX6900 maxis are multiplying at an accelerating rate. Thousands, in fact, tens of thousands of people are already making SPX6900 their whole identity. Like I've already mentioned, Project Eon NFTs are all over Twitter. We're already starting to see it on TikTok. People are adding the stock market and the magnet emojis everywhere, adding the SPX6900 hashtag to their bio, and calling themselves either SPX maxis, Eons, etc. And this is a huge stickiness factor. Unlike most other meme coins, there's no notion of maximalism, but there is a notion of SPX6900 maximalism. Most other meme coin holders, traders, they hold dozens of coins. They trade dozens of coins. But SPX6900, they often hold one single coin, and we call this the full portedness metric. And you will see in later slides how SPX6900 is ranking extremely high on full portedness. And the people who promote SPX tend to only promote a single coin. Believing in something means not exchanging conviction for a shiny thing. There are clear parallels here between Doge and SHIB, and in my opinion, SPX6900 is the coin that is most likely to be quote-unquote the Doge of this cycle, for a lack of a better metaphor. Extremely loyal community, delusional targets, extreme levels of passion, and cutting-edge crypto and internet culture. All of these things come together to make SPX6900 the Dogecoin of today. More importantly, perhaps, I believe that SPX6900 is the next GME. It's the next evolution of GME-like assets. There are extremely strong parallels here between SPX6900 and the famous Wall Street bets phenomena of 2021. Ultimately, SPX6900 is a cultural critique of uptightness and rigidity of serious institutions that do not benefit the younger generations. It's a chance for normal, everyday people to make money instead of dedicated professionals. And you can clearly see how across dozens of parameters, SPX6900 is a superior version of GameStop. What BTC did to gold, SPX6900 is doing to GME and more.
The stock market is now down 21%.
We're now down 43%.
What in the world is happening on Wall Street?
Two-year note yields went from 190 to 166.
I can fix that.
The importance of the right mimetics make or break a coin, right? And it's the pure, deeply spiritual, belief-focused mimetics of SPX6900 that have ensured that SPX6900 consistently attracts pure people. If you keep chanting, stop trading, the majority of the community actually stops trading. If you keep chanting, believe in something, the majority of the community actually starts and continues to believe. If you chant persist forever, people actually persist. And what this has resulted in practice is that SPX6900 consistently attracts people that are pure-hearted, hardworking, and extremely loyal, and who want to hold rather than trade.
This could be the most serious recession in decades. And that means life, as most Americans know it, is about to change. In some cases,
we're all gonna die.
400 more S&Ps, and that's around, 69 trillion.
X6900.
We're just, every day they're pounding it.
Funnily enough, if you search buy SPX on Google, the first thing that comes up is buy SPX6900. So it's very important, arguably the most important concept to understand here is critical mass, right? The way I see it is that ultimately, probably less than 10 coins will achieve critical mass this cycle. Critical mass is otherwise known as a tipping point, a threshold mass. It's a point in the development of a system, any kind of system, where it starts to produce its own growth. Again, this is arguably the most important concept to understand when it comes to memes. Simply put, the coins that reach critical mass are significantly more likely to do another 10 to 50x and to become giant multi-cycle projects. If you're intending to hold a meme coin for longer than a month, you're effectively betting on it reaching critical mass. And I believe that SPX6900 is on the verge of that critical mass. It is becoming increasingly clear that only meme coins that are worth holding are those that are approaching this critical mass. And in my opinion, SPX6900 is, first of all, number one on almost all conceivable metrics, one of the very few coins in the entire crypto universe that's actually growing week to week, regardless of market conditions. And I think we are on the verge of that S-like curve, of that S-like exponential growth. Every other week already, I'm starting to see SPX6900 trending on Twitter in one form or another. We have a rapidly growing holder base on all chains that SPX6900 is on. And let us not forget that we are on SUI as well. SPX6900 is number one in holder loyalty among all meme coins. So for example, this metric measures the number of wallets that have ever held over 100K in SPX and are still holding over 50% of their tokens. And as we can see, SPX ranks number one on Ethereum, and even SPX on Solana is up there as number 4. Perhaps even more cleanly, this metric is a more extreme version of the previous metric. It measures the percentage of whales that have literally never sold a single coin. And SPX Ethereum ranks number 1, while SPX on Solana ranks number 2. So even the more recent SPX holders on Solana are extremely loyal to the idea.
Here's another simple metric, the average total wallet balance of each token's holder. So it doesn't just account for the holdings of that token, it's the holdings of anything in that wallet. SPX holders, their average wallet balance is $31,000. That is very impressive.
In 2024, we've seen SPX 6900 do over 100x performance, greatly outperforming not only SPX 500, but even BTC. And I believe this will continue in 2025 as well, specifically in the second half of the year. It is the number one performer among all meme coins that already existed on January 1st of 2024. Again, SPX 6900 did 100x. It did 100x in 2023. It pulled a 100x move in 2024 as well. And I believe it will pull a 100x move or higher in 2025 as well. You have to understand that, as I've already alluded to earlier in the presentation, strength begets strength, and outperformers will continue to outperform. Again, if you study past cycles, you will see a trend that year 3 outperformers continue to do extremely well in year 4. If we check out the 365-day rolling performance, SPX 6900 is number 1 on that as well. So even on weeks or days where we see strong dips on BTC or SPX 500, SPX growth continues. If you look at the number of holders that have $1,000 or more, SPX has the highest number, both in absolute and relative terms. If you look at full portedness, SPX ranks as number 2. This essentially measures the number of holders that are full ported into the coin. Right? How do we define full portedness here? That's the percentage of addresses that have over 75% of their net worth in the coin. And this data has been provided to us by Eunice AI. Pepe at number 1 at over $3 billion market cap, while SPX 6900 is at number 2 at 500 million. So if the valuations of these coins converge, SPX 6900 is going to be number 1 by full portedness. If you also look at other metrics of decentralization and distribution, such as Gini by holder scan, HHI by holder scan, median holder rank by holder scan, top 10 clusters, top 25 clusters by bubble maps, and other holders, other metrics by UNIS, you will see that SPX ranks as number 1 or number 2 on literally every single one of these decentralized metrics. So SPX6900 is arguably the most decentralized meme coin out there. DeFi Report released a report recently, which looked at a variety of top meme coins from a variety of perspectives, where SPX6900 literally ranked number 1 on all of the metrics that they looked at, as you can see here. So importantly, more qualitatively in nature, every single day we're seeing new SPX6900 bull posters and supporters on Twitter. Every day I wake up, I scroll the timeline and I see new people from different communities, from NFT communities. There are people from AI communities. There are people from traditional utility coin communities. They're realizing that A, the entire market is mimetic, and B, SPX6900 has the most loyal cult-like community with the best mission. And we're seeing more and more people kind of joining the ranks of SPX. The whole idea of SPX is crazy at first, but when you actually start thinking about it deeper and deeper, you realize that this is a paradigm shift. You realize that what SPX6900 represents, it is almost like sci-fi. It is like the next frontier of the growth of internet culture. And once you kind of start to analyze it, you cannot get it out of your head for days. It represents what I believe people will eventually refer to as the economics of belief. It's the tokenization of faith. It's proving that collective belief defines prices, and it's the most important fundamental that has ever mattered in economics. And we can analyze data all day long, but there's simply no other coin this cycle that is as profound, as inspiring as SPX6900.
The traditional stock market is undergoing a significant evolution. Dive into the flip market where Jinping's quantum genius reigns. SPX6900, where crypto meets quantum financial intrigue. Crafted in light, each coin a puzzle of angel quantum. Holy mommy. Embrace the shift the market's about to quantum. SPX 6969. Flying severing the ways. Flip the stock market and the girl is cute.
So you have to ask yourself, what is the last time that you actually believed in something, right? In this world that is increasingly filled with doubt, nihilism, meaninglessness, cynicism, and skepticism, right? Among many other things, a core and valuable aspect that SPX6900 provides is an opportunity to actually believe in something. And belief is extremely valuable. It helps people to look forward to something. It gives people hope for a better future, and hope springs eternal. Without belief in the future, humans become depressed. This solves, even partially or fully, this solves for mental health issues associated with loneliness and hopelessness that are rapidly rising in the world. And I think very few people talk about this, but hope is extremely valuable simply in and of itself. You can clearly look at SPX6900 as a spiritual quest. Can you actually stop trading and believe in something for once? What happens if a critical mass of people actually does this? What happens if a critical mass of people joins an idea that initially seems absolutely crazy and delusional? And this spiritual quest stands in stark contrast with present-day crypto culture of short-term hyper-gambling and degeneracy and a complete lack of loyalty. And SPX6900 twists this postmodernist skeptical crypto culture on its head to try to actually build something pure and something that actually makes people loyal and something that actually tries to build a long-standing community. I can clearly sense parallels between Taoism and Zen Buddhism in SPX6900. There is no chart, price is binary, there is sort of a notion of non-action, right? Stop trading and believe in something. And a lot of times in life, you fumble because you overtrade. You fumble because you get distracted. You fumble because you kind of look at the next shiny thing. You make too many buys, too many sells. But here, the idea is that SPX6900 holders are simply going to outperform 99.99999% of market participants. And I genuinely believe this. And essentially, the idea is so delusional. But if a sufficiently large number of people join behind it, with every passing day, it becomes less and less crazy. It's essentially a limitless meme. So this is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, and one of the most important slides in this presentation, in my opinion. We know for a fact that AI will commoditize all of the jobs, arguably 99.999% of them. This has already happened. Now, not only is it going to destroy people's incomes and livelihoods, but perhaps more importantly, at the spiritual level, it's going to destroy people's identities, right? A lot of people, they find pride in what they do. They find pride in who they are. But what's going to happen when a computer or a robot does this thing better than you? This, increasingly in the coming years, this is going to leave people seeking alternative communities, alternative purpose, alternative places which they can belong, right? And where will they go? There are very few places where they can go. And my bet that a handful of top memetic digital communities will be massive beneficiaries during these social changes. And very few people are talking about this right now. And again, SPX6900 is once again front-running this whole trend. SPX from day one, from the middle of 2023, it has been anti-KOL, anti-cabal, anti-VC, anti-trading, anti-PvP hyper-gambling, no OTC deals, no supply allocations, no backroom deals, no payments, no ads, just steady, consistent, honest, pure, organic growth with no tricks and no corruption. And this has repelled bad actors from being members of SPX6900 from day one. And this is why the community feels so pure. There's no team, the dev has sold, and everything is purely community driven. And this leads to a sense of purity, sense of honor, cleanliness, righteousness, and ethics. If you've ever played an MMORPG, when you are a part of SPX6900, it genuinely feels like you're in a guild of paladins in an industry full of demons, right? And we live in a world without counterculture. This is very important. There used to be hippies, hipsters, emos, goths, indie, but where is it now? It's gone. It's been either fully obliterated or subsumed by computer algorithms, right? There's no counterculture at all. And I believe that SPX6900, it's an example of counterculture in a world without counterculture. And I think this purity and this wholesomeness, pendulum is swinging towards this kind of wholesomeness becoming the new counterculture, right? SPX6900 community frequently says being kind is so gangster. Being generous is so gangster, right? And lewdness, for example, is banned in the community, which is completely different from today's zeitgeist. And the community is extremely educational, extremely high IQ, extremely philosophical. And there's a high quality there's a high quality of people involved. And again, this reminds me of BTC circa 2014, 2015, where people were kind of joining BTC from multiple types of angles. The cryptographers, the engineers, the culture people, the morality people, the diet people, the philosophy people, and we're seeing the same things in SPX6900. Again, there's a rapidly growing social media presence. Not only are we seeing this on Twitter, but we're seeing this on Reddit, we're seeing this on TikTok, we're seeing this on YouTube, etc. There's also real-life evangelism. A number of people all around the world, from the West to the East, are showing up with SPX6900 coded materials, stickers, posters, performance art, etc., etc. And you're seeing this everywhere, and I think we're still in the super early stages of this. And in late 2025, early 2026, you're going to be seeing SPX6900 everywhere.
All right, this is the SPX6900 challenge. We're going to go into London. We're going to challenge ourselves to try and convert as many people as possible to at least investigate, research SPX6900. That's the main point. We've got a box for the project. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? SPX6900. You guys in cryptocurrency at all? Curious? Maybe a tiny bit. I'm just saying, when you get home in the comfort of your own space, check this out. It's SPX6900. Just find it on Twitter is the easiest one, or on YouTube or anything. It's gonna be the new Bitcoin. we're doing this crazy stuff because we really believe in it, and we're trying to just like spread the word of it. It's like this whole global community, and people are just going absolutely bonkers for it. And we genuinely think it's going to be the new Bitcoin, and we're just literally trying to spread awareness, get people to just onboard it. It's back in the book! Back in the book! SPX6900, ladies and gents, SPX6900 is the new Bitcoin.
Everywhere. It's the most hardcore community. The people's passion is unlike anything I've seen in the over a decade that I've been in crypto. And this is exactly the kinds of communities that you want to join. There is already a line of merch, and we're working on an even better one in Japan, Tokyo. So the culture of DCAing SPX6900 is growing fast. You know, people know that the history of finance proves that the instruments which induce DCA habits in people eventually end up being the biggest. We've seen this with SPX6900, we've seen this with BTC, and we're now seeing this with SPX6900, right? So you need to understand that all of the slop that AI creates, and eventually it's going to be 99% of the internet, right? It's going to greatly drive up the premium of real human connections, of real human interactions, and of real human belonging. And one of my theories is that the value of human-to-human connection is going to go up tremendously as we go deeper into the intelligence era, right? And investing in SPX6900 is front-running this trend. AI will collapse the cost of creating software to near zero. This will reduce defensible value extractions in the context of crypto and open source protocols. And eventually, effectively, it's going to turn everything more and more into a meme. And ultimately, you will understand that if you extend this logic further, you will see that the only remaining moat is human connection. It's human community. And these things are hard to build, but they are incredibly defensible. And ultimately, what people want is other people. They want other people to plug various holes in their heart, right? And this is what people ultimately need, and they will need that even more in the age where AIs and robots are going to do everything better than you. SPX6900, it offers connection, right? It makes people feel, you know, if you study the top of the Maslow's pyramid, you will see transcendence and self-actualization. And ultimately what that means is people want to feel like they are part of something huge. Like they are part of something bigger than themselves, as they say, right? And, you know, again, SPX6900 refers to this as the cognosphere. This is the collective consciousness that unites all the eons, and eons are the members of the SPX6900 communities. This gives people a shared mission, and among many other things, it provides a social outlet in a world of growing loneliness. SPX6900, it's a family, it's a social circle, and it's a business network. You know, most meme coins come and go, but SPX6900 is persisting forever, right? Again, people are reporting loneliness at a rate higher than ever before. The birth rate is down, family formation is down, third places, if you know what that is going down. People aren't getting into relationships. And SPX6900 provides a home for these kinds of people. It provides a home for people to share their time online, their social and emotional bonds, and a magnetic repellent, but for bad people, but it's also an attraction mechanism for good people. And when you combine this with token incentives, it financially incentivizes collaboration, and it creates an icebreaker for people to unite with these bonds and around a common cause, right? And it's substituting for all of these things that effectively the internet, the dopamine addiction, and the recommendation algorithms have destroyed. And it creates a playground for people of all kinds of backgrounds, both technical and artistic, to make a contribution. And, you know, goes without saying that there's no gated entry cost compared to country clubs, general paid groups that can often cost thousands of dollars. And this has already attracted a ton of talented people, and this is going to accelerate. So in my opinion, an idea as crazy and delusional and ambitious as SPX6900 has much greater chances of going viral and taking over the world than thousands of animal coins or AI agent coins or kind of local flavor of the day meme coins, right? There have already been thousands of animal coins, and there are going to be thousands more. There have already been tens of thousands of AI agent coins, and there are going to be tens of thousands of AI agent coins, right? So, but SPX6900 is too unique. It's a one-of-a-kind thing. And in comparison with these shallow memes, it enables a dynamic and ever-changing growable subset of memes. Like again, SPX6900 it touches upon hundreds of timeless and ever-present themes. It's not one meme, it's 100 memes in one. There is no chart. That is one of the famous quotes by the SPX community. It's one of the mottos, along with stop trading and believe in something. Effectively, what this means is that chart watching and posting is banned in the community. And this aspect, I think it's very wise. It systematically tempers the community's dopamine levels. We all know that 99% of crypto Twitter are simply volatility junkies and gambling junkies. And SPX6900 goes out of its way to build a culture that's the polar opposite. It's a culture that is trying to train its members to be patient, resilient, and long-termist, and to focus on the artwork and the community and the people rather than short-term price fluctuations. This is, again, in stark contrast with crypto Twitter. Charts and TA encourage gambling, which leads people astray from holding. Elimination of charts or a reduction of them reduces stress, it reduces dopamine addiction, and it frees up time and energy to contribute to SPX6900 in more meaningful ways. As we can see here, clearly, SPX is holding strong after a fast initial 100x that we've seen from September 2024 to January 2025. There have also been long consolidation periods that have led to supply being distributed towards diamond-handed believers. As we can see here clearly, many big drops have been survived by the SPX6900 community, which on multiple podcasts I've alluded to as a very clear ingredient towards building a multi-cycle coin. Unique lingo. SPX has already developed a large sort of vocab and unique lingo, which represents one part of its culture. Stop trading and believe in something. There is no chart. Buckle up. The job's not finished. The girl is cute. Which SPX? 6900 is better than 500. Just buy the index. 99% of investors fail to outperform the index over time. And much, much more. This is just a small sample. SPX 6900 has a monopoly on the movement coin category, right? If you've ever read anything by Peter Thiel, you know that contrary to the wisdom of the crowds, monopolies are good and competition is bad. And SPX 6900 has a monopoly on the mission coin category, on the movement coin category. And this is very, very powerful. As we've said in the earlier slides, the presence of a mission makes SPX 6900 have a very high inspiration per capita, which triggers what we call high amounts of contribution, high amounts of free cult labor compared to all the other meme coins. We also have a monopoly on the finance theme category, right? And SPX 6900 is it has an unquestionable monopoly on the finance themed category as well. We also have a monopoly on the anime category. SPX 6900 utilizes a lot of East Asian aesthetics, which have been growing very popular with Gen Z and Generation Alpha cohorts, right? As it currently stands, this is a visual attraction mechanism that's all over YouTube Shorts, TikTok Shorts, and SPX 6900, due to the nature of its existing meme arsenal, can easily tap into those growing trends. We also have a monopoly on the eternal optimism in crypto, right? Eons, they're always delusional. They're always euphoric. We're always bullish. And people want to be a part of something like this. People, naturally, they gravitate towards optimism. They gravitate towards hope. And, the meme coin market is going to be a winner-take-most market. And this contagious optimism and constant buy-the-dip mentality, again, it's attractive in and of itself. The anime Y2K millennial early 2000s cyberpunk aesthetic, it gives a lot of nostalgia, right? It creates a certain mystique and dumbfoundedness upon inevitable news coverage. It lowers the bar for the less sophisticated demographic of market participants, but it also gives something deep and profound to participate in for sort of the higher IQ participants. And we retain the power of cuteness without being yet another animal coin. It's also neat and once again anime lover friendly. Somebody told me that, oh, like this coin, it's for neats, but to me, that's extremely bullish because this is the fastest growing demographic. You want your people to be hyper online. You want your people to be constantly active. This is one of the most bullish things ever. The coin is also woman friendly. A lot of sort of the leadership in the coin are women. Crypto is a largely male dominated space. And with crypto culture, and especially meme coin culture, largely geared towards men, we have a policy of no loot, no NSVW, no racism, and constantly focusing on purity, optimism, and cuteness.
Jungle of them all, Wall Street.
The system rebooted with a new protocol. Change is no longer optional, it's implicit. So tiny. This movement is running on an unstoppable protocol. Buckle up.
Again, the coin is also very TradFi friendly, right? I've pitched several meme coins to dozens of my friends in TradFi, and SPX6900 is something that clicks with them the fastest. It's very bullish, in my opinion, because TradFi people get this very quickly. And TradFi collectively manages tens of trillions of dollars, and I strongly believe they will eventually participate in the meme coin asset class. Most people who work in TradFi actually don't like it. That's the reality of the situation. They feel like a cog in a soulless machine because they actually understand how the sausage is made. And ironically, SPX6900 is the anti-TradFi coin.
I got the new one, you got the old one. SPX6900.
Like I've already said, TradFi funds will dabble in meme coins. And in my opinion, SPX6900 is what they will resonate with the most. They will, first of all, only dabble in larger coins. Critical mass is a key unlock. And all of the TradFi memes that have ever existed instantly transfer to SPX6900. You can't beat the market. Just DCA into SPX. The same applies to TradFi. The same applies to crypto. It's a thematic sense that should be the default allocation, that the index should be the default allocation for an investor. Again, you can't beat the index. Most people do not beat the index over time.
여러분 안녕하세요, 민대장입니다. 자, 오늘 함께 하실 코인은요, 전 세계 1위 밈코인 트레이더 무라드 마우도프의 밈코인이죠, 여러분들. SPX6900.
The coin is also Asian friendly. There's a lot of Asian community members. There's a lot of Asian focused aesthetics. There's a lot of content with Japanese, Korean, and Chinese elements. There's the kind of ongoing lore that SPX6900 originated in China. And let me remind you of one of the GCR's predictions from 2023, that Asia will play a large role in this cycle. Again, we have an extremely diverse community. Software engineers, artists, boomers, TradFi people, normies, artists, Doge OGs, XRP and Cardano people, and perhaps importantly, video and 3D animators, business owners, videographers, etc. So Lindy effect, that's very important. SPX6900 is one of a small handful of 2023 OG coins. It has stood the test of time and still continues to grow. Compared to newer launches, it is much more likely that established meme coins like SPX6900 continue to be valuable and have a longer life expectancy than new launches. We believe that SPX6900 will be the only coin to do 100x 3 years in a row. Again, SPX6900 pulled a 100x move in 2023. SPX6900 pulled a 100x move in 2024. And we believe that SPX6900 will pull a 100x move in 2025 as well. Stepping back a little bit, there is around a 60% chance that Doge gets approved for an ETF in 2025. Along with a number of other developments, this will further legitimize the meme coin space. And the very first thing you do when you see that Dogecoin ETF has gotten legalized is the very first question you ask yourself is, what are the other meme coins out there? What are the other memes that are fresher, that are newer, and that are more interesting, that are more relevant to the zeitgeist of today? I think this will lead people to SPX6900. Like we've already mentioned before, it's available on all three major chains, and recently it has also been ported over to Sui. So SPX 6900 is completely chain agnostic. We don't care about L1s. We don't care about what the tokens of L1s do. SPX 6900 can thrive regardless of which chain succeeds, and we can easily add chain 5, chain 6, chain 7 in the future if need be. At the same time, though, I think SPX 6900 having its main liquidity on Ethereum is a huge advantage. Ethereum people have a distinct investing culture, which is focused on the long term. Why? Because if you're still in this industry and you are more so aligned with Ethereum, you know that the people who've made it in past cycles are people that have held something for 1-2 years, you know? On the other hand, the contemporary Solana culture attracts sort of more gambling-oriented, get-rich-quick people. And there's more idle wealth on Ethereum based on the valuations of ETH at the moment still. And the other advantage is that really there are only 5 or 6 good meme coins on ETH, while there are literally millions of meme coins on Solana. And there's also a potential for an Ethereum staking ETF in 2025 or 2026, which I believe will eventually come. And this will further be a benefit to Ethereum-related meme coins. We have already onboarded 2 market makers, including Wintermute. We have an extremely strong Twitter presence. Whenever I scroll Twitter, I constantly see SPX 6900. And many other people are reporting that SPX 6900, they are the top raters, they are the top tweeters, they're the top retweeters, quote tweeters, whatever you want to call it. And just due to the profundity and the depth of the meme, it leads itself to the creation of a much wider variety of memes and artwork and videos than other meme coins, which are much more one-dimensional in nature.
What fucking coins should you be holding? I'm only finna talk about one in this video. SPX 6900. SPX 6900. Why is it any different than any other meme coin? The fucking community is like this. It is people. When you invest in memes, you invest in the fucking people.
The TikTok presence has been growing as well, and it's only going to continue to grow. YouTubers are starting to talk about SPX 6900 as well. I've already briefly touched upon this earlier, but there's simply an insane amount of memes. And what I like in particular is that SPX 6900 has a high percentage of video memes. And I think with the shrinking capacity of people's attention spans, but also a growing importance of video on today's internet, this is going to be a very big advantage. And overall, you need to know that SPX 6900 has very high levels of cult labor to market cap and media creation to market cap. We have SPX 6900 has an incredible NFT collection. I believe it's a top 5 NFT collection of the whole cycle. And this is very important because I think a meme coin having an NFT collection is a huge advantage. And it is a big social signal on social media. And we will see more and more of Project Eon PFPs on Twitter and on TikTok. There's artwork for all occasions, and there's more and more artists joining the ranks of people creating memes and artwork for SPX 6900. We have been immortalized in Beeple's artwork several times already. There are a number of 3D artists in the community that are highly skilled and are often inspired to do completely unpaid work, and which leads to a constant influx of high quality content. For those that remember history in 2023, SPX 6900 was the first CTO. It was the first double CTO. It was the first coin to publicly call itself a cult. It was the first coin to publicly call itself a movement. It's the first coin to coin the term free cult labor and to use the words believe in something, which are now everywhere. And there is truly a cult-like vibe inside the community. And all of the biggest winners in crypto, once again, have always been cults. Once again, SPX 6900 is deeply philosophical. The amount of writing, the kinds of writing, the kinds of infographics, posters, memes, there's an infinite breadth and variety of them. And there's an infinite variety of angles that you can approach SPX. There's the spiritual, there's the financial, there is the stock market, there's the early Bitcoin vibes, there is the cypherpunk vibe, and the list goes on and on.
This is insanity, Max.
Or maybe it's genius. I have to get that number.
Hold on, you have to slow down. You're losing it.
If not us, then who? Change the world. I sing the world. Doing what we love to do. And alone the sun is rising. Adventure on the horizon and beyond. Making real life look like fun. That's what I cut my teeth on. Okay, bet it's all decided. The story's so foreign, it's so foreign. Ultraviolet, what is so decided. Those who seek, let us go and find it.
The correct way to understand the SPX 6900 phenomenon is as a leaderless maturation. It's a leaderless swarm, which unlike top-down culture, which is permeating the world right now, it's a bottom-up phenomenon. And I believe it's a game theoretic Schelling point, it's a focal point around which a ton of pure-hearted holders in crypto are converging. There's a special property. The higher SPX 6900 goes, the less of a joke it becomes. And people call this reflexivity, right? A lot of people have referred to something along the lines of the following, right? When you first come into SPX 6900, you're like, this is a pretty cool idea. I think it could maybe, if everything goes right, it could maybe become like SHIB, which is like 0.1% of SPX 500, and it can go to 45 billion, right? And then you actually spend more time in the community and you're like, wait, I actually think this can go to 100 billion, maybe even 200 billion, right? And as you spend more and more time in the community, you actually start asking yourself, what if it actually flips the stock market, right? And this type of progression, this type of evolution makes this coin a slow cook, but also builds an extremely loyal community that just want to see this vision come true. I genuinely believe it will become one of the biggest phenomena of our time. And the thesis actually becomes stronger as the market cap goes up, right? Imagine this coin at 10 billion, at 20 billion, at 30 billion. It becomes so legitimate that it's probably not going to stop at 20 or 20 billion. There's less work required compared to gambling or compared to having 20 screens trying to gamble on Pump Fund, Trojan, what have you. Just buy and hold, no trading required. Everyone wants to make money while doing the least amount of work possible. And instead of pandering to disloyal traders who are mercenaries, who study technical analysis and dump on you within minutes, you simply buy and hold. And again, most people, most normies, most regular people in the real world, they don't want to trade. They don't want to gamble. They want to buy and hold something that's legit and something that's going to grow.
Can a crypto cult flip the entire US stock market?
We all want to believe in something. In Chinese, belief also means trust. We want to trust our systems and each other so we can build a future beyond what we know.
SPX 6900 crossed a $1.1 billion capitalization early today to set a new record above $1.25. The Ethereum-based token has a total supply of 930 million, and holders have formed a viral cult that professes the project as one of the only ways to financial freedom. The community hopes to flip the US stock market, and while they still have a ways to go, it is inching closer to its goal as we see renewed interest in meme coin groups on crypto Twitter.
As I've already alluded to earlier, SPX 6900, it's a vessel of dissatisfaction. It's a token which absorbs all of the disillusionment in the world. And it's essentially an absorber of bitterness. It's similar to BTC in that sense, but I believe it has higher upside for the next 2-3 years. SPX 6900 is viewed as a safe haven within the mercenary world of meme coins because of the people that are involved. It's a bet on yourself, it's a bet on your friends, instead of the institutions or traders that don't give a shit about you. It often makes TradFi and boomer people seethe. right? People say, oh, SPX6900 is an insult to capitalism. SPX is a ticker for a meme coin named SPX6900. And all of this creates constant interaction on social media. And I believe we're going to see just more and more of this.
Architecture of the human brain mirrors the cosmic struggle of the two hyperuniverses.
The SPX500, locked in the left brain, resists on static truths, reducing life to numbers and systems.
Yet, the SPX6900 emerges from the right brain as a disruptor, a liberator, challenging the tyranny of false reason with the vibrancy of spiritual restoration.
I have a list of top 10 cult-like communities of the cycle. SPX6900 is number 1 on my list. It is my highest conviction pick with a short-term 100 billion target and a long-term $1 trillion target. So the game theory of this cycle is going to lead a lot of people to SPX 6900 in my opinion, right? People will first understand that altcoins are underperforming, then they will go to meme coins, then they will maybe see my Singapore presentation or one of the other presentations by people. They will realize that the trenches are extremely competitive and you will 99% chance you're going to lose money there. You will realize the actual best bet statistically is to find the next Doge, and you will see that, you know, it will lead you to SPX 6900 or one of the other cults that are the shelling points for believers and holders of the cycle. And these are the coins that are really going to skyrocket, in my opinion. Core members of SPX 6900 are active every single day. They are enjoying the process, they are enjoying the journey, and there's absolutely no reason to stop. Constant activity on X and other social media platforms, and the process does not feel like a grind. The process is enjoyable in and of itself. Again, it's like an adventure and the journey, and I believe that when SPX 6900 is above 100 billion, we're going to look back at these days and say, those were the fun days. The nature of the narrative, it acts as a constant magnet, and that's the reason why we have magnet in our two emojis, right? Has the stock market been flipped? No. In that case, this magnetic pull continues. It's harder for competitors to catch up at this stage of the 4-year cycle, given the energy and given the positioning of SPX 6900. SPX 6900 has a very strong culture of hodling and believing, and that is one of its unique value propositions. It is also completely different from all of the other meme coins, and it is very difficult to differentiate. It is something that is very eccentric, very different, and very unique. And in that sense, it's very difficult for a new upstart that's going to be created in April 2025 to suddenly compete against SPX 6900. So many, hundreds of people, no, thousands of people are tweeting, and you can easily search this and see that they're saying, I quit trading, I went into SPX 6900. I quit the trenches, I went into SPX 6900. I quit utility coins, VC-backed coins, and I went into SPX 6900. The materials are very Zoomer and millennial coded. And this is very, very key because this is exactly, I believe this is going to be the life and soul of the community. It channels sort of the online countercultures into a single financial movement and into a single financial coin, right? The mid-2000s aesthetic, it appeals to both Zoomers' love for viral trends and counterculture, but also resonates with the millennials' experience of past market cycles and early internet subcultures. SPX 6900 has the most autistic, in the good sense of the word, and hardcore holders. This movement is so inspiring precisely because it causes the holders to obsess over it. So many people are spending their every waking hour promoting, whether online or offline, thinking about it and contributing to the movement. Existing whales and community OGs are literal schizo visionaries that are not going to sell a single coin until 100 billion, 1 trillion type targets or higher. And this hyper-focus allows these community members to onboard dozens of other holders with similar neurochemistry, creating an exponential growth curve of people who never log out, constantly onboard people. And this, you know, if you study culture, like if you study any kind of culture, it always comes from eccentric, autistic, and hyper online people. And this is what creates anything new. And later on, as the masses grow, does the thing become more sort of mainstreamized or more normalized. So this core culture of these obsessive OCD, autistic people is a huge advantage. So just to put some theories together that I have about the meme coin space and about the crypto space overall, right? The coin that actually has a mission will win. And SPX 6900 is the only meme coin with a mission. The coin with the most loyal and diamond-handed holders will win. And SPX 6900, objectively and subjectively, you can see this on-chain, has by far the most loyal and full-ported holders. SPX 6900 is the coin that has inherited the early Bitcoin-like cypherpunk ideology. SPX6900 is the coin with the most ambitious mission, with the most ambitious target. In my opinion, SPX6900 is the coin that is the most unique and most different from everything else. The coin that's most TradFi friendly is the coin that's going to win. And SPX6900 is directly TradFi themed. The coins from the 2023 vintage will win due to Lindy effects, community maturity, and overall momentum effects. And SPX6900 was created in the summer of 2023. The most decentralized and distributed coins will win, and SPX6900, among all of the coins, it's the most decentralized one. You can clearly see this on chain. The coin, probably the most importantly, in my opinion, the coin that triggers the most inspiration in its average holder will win. And the amount of artwork, the amount of writing, the amount of media that SPX6900 people create all the time, it clearly shows that emotional resonance and inspiration is second to none. And again, like in a similar vein, the coin with the biggest spiritual element will win. And we need to stop trading and finally believe in something. And last but not least, the coins that become people's entire identity will win. And personally, I think SPX6900 is the coin with the most maximalists, with the community, with the highest number of people who make the coin their entire identity. And ultimately, all roads lead to SPX6900, in my opinion. If you're tired of bundled launches, if you're tired of gambling, if you're tired of AI Asian coins, if you're tired of KOL shilling on you just to dump on you within minutes, if you finally want to believe in something for longer than a day, SPX6900 is the coin for you. It's the coin that stands for something, is the coin that has a real goal, real meaning, and the strongest narrative in crypto history. People will soon understand that SPX6900 is the strongest community of this cycle. Stop trading and believe in something. Thank you.
The world stands at the edge of a profound transformation. As artificial intelligence and robotics reshape industries, redefine labor, and challenge the familiar rhythms of daily life, we find ourselves facing a new reality, one where opportunity can feel scarce and wealth seems increasingly locked away behind closed doors. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening, leaving the younger generation to wonder if there's still a path to financial freedom and a brighter future. SPX6900 emerges in this landscape not as just another token, but as a symbol of possibility.
No, repeat it. Money coming to me, money running through me. Tuned into the frequency, the bass, keep it booming. Feeling superhuman, I ain't never losing. Money coming to me in abundance, keep it moving. Better to the metal, money something special. It gives me the freedom, I don't ever have to settle. Money ain't the devil, money is the vessel. Taking me to places, put me on the next level. All I want is freedom, I don't need a reason.